Hi, I'm Lynn Rogers with the Financial Revival Group, and I'm here today with our founder, Howard Bono. And Howard, after speaking with thousands of people, we know that the vast majority of them have a few nagging questions. And what I'd love to do is go over those with you today.
Great.
All right. So the first one we tend to hear is, what is going to happen to my credit?
You know, as people are dealing with their underwater homes, Lynn, that's the thing. You know, we've been prompted and raised up to understand that you pay a bill and, you know, you pay your bills on time and your credit score has leaked into all kinds of other areas of your life. We think a couple of things could happen, folks, in terms of your credit and your credit scores in particular. The banks have taken about 4 million houses so far in foreclosure. We think that by the time this is done, the total number will be 15 to 20 million. Now, the banks have already proven that they're not really very good at money because they've needed bailouts to stay open. Now they're going to get into real estate and try to deal with that. We think they're going to we think that's going to be a pathetic mess by the time they get done. The banks have also proven that they're willing to change the rules at any point in time for profit. So what we see happening is a couple of things in terms of credit. They're either going to have to abandon the credit scoring system entirely, or they're just going to change the algorithm so that people that have had a foreclosure or a short sale are not going to be impacted nearly as much. As a matter of fact, we've already started to see some of that. So we think that going forward, people that have had a foreclosure or a short sale, the banks are going to actually, we think they're going to actually go through and start marketing to you and figuring out ways to be able to sell you a house. And we're going to go back to that thing where the banks are going to say, you don't even have to worry about a down payment. We need to sell these houses. If you can make the monthly payments, we'll get you set up with one of these houses.
Well, it makes sense.
It sure does.
We know another big concern from people is that they're going to get sued by the banks.
Mm-hmm. That's a very legitimate concern, folks, and you really have to do some research on this. If you live in a judicial foreclosure state, which means the banks have to sue you in a foreclosure situation, primarily on the East Coast is where we see this most. If they sue you, they can get a deficiency judgment for any of the money they lose on this, and those judgments will last for years and years and years, and they can come back after you. Conversely, if you live on the West Coast, most of the West Coast states are a non-judicial foreclosure. No judges, no courts. Most of the time, if the banks take a property in a non-judicial foreclosure state, they give up the right to come back after you and sue you later. The caveat on that, of course, is if you have a second mortgage, no matter where you're at, the banks can come back and sue you for whatever they lose as a result of that second mortgage.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
All right. Well, another big concern people have is that maybe the banks can come and take their money out of their checking, their savings account.
Mm-hmm. The first thing that we would tell you is if you have your bank account at the same bank where they have your mortgage, you've got to move your bank account. So there's no point in tempting that bank to be able to come in and grab that money. You may have signed something in the little mice print, in all those things that you've signed. You may have signed something that gives the bank permission to come do that. Close the account, move it to a different bank, then you don't have to worry about that. If the bank does take money out of your bank account, really there's nothing you can do about it. Whether it's legal or whether it's not, and the banks have proven whether it's legal or not is irrelevant.
And
to the
good
way
luck getting it back.
Exactly, you're just not going to get it back.
Right, and we usually tell people to look at those smaller regional local banks or credit unions. What do you feel about that?
Completely. For about 10 years now, we've been coaching people to do that, and that is get your money in a credit union or get your money in a small local regional bank.
Great.
You know, part of that's political too, because if you don't like the way the big banks are operating, why do you keep your money there?
Absolutely.
Quit feeding the beast. Absolutely.
And one thing that we've also found that people don't realize is that they may have a tax consequence.
This is insane, folks. You very possibly do have a tax consequence. If your bank loses, say, $100,000 on your upside-down house, they're going to issue you a 1099, and they're going to send a copy of that to the IRS. The IRS says if your bank lost $100,000, they basically gave you a gift. Heck of a gift, huh? And the IRS says you should have to pay a gift tax on all of that money. Now, depending on where you're at, there are some laws in place that will protect a portion of people, but they don't protect you at all on second mortgages. It's critical that before you do anything, you understand the tax consequences and the ramifications in your particular situation so that you don't get stung with that one.
Well, great. Well, Howard, what I'd love to do now is actually go over to the whiteboard and show people a real-life example. Why don't we talk about Mark and Sarah?
Mark and Sarah. For those of you that haven't read our book yet, please go and download our free ebook. And we do an example in there of Mark and Sarah. And Mark and Sarah are a real example of some members that we're working with. And so what we've done is we're going to break that down for you here on the whiteboard so that you can see what it looks like. So let's do that. Mark and Sarah are a very typical client that we work with. They're in their early 30s. Mark is a union electrician. They have 2 kids. Sarah works part-time. So in the height of the market in 2006, they bought a house at $295,000. They did an FHA loan. They put 3.5% down on that loan, federally guaranteed loan. They have a 6.5% interest rate and a payment that when they were working worked out great. You know, Mark's a union electrician. His hours are way down.
Right.
Sarah's part-time job that she had has completely gone away. And on top of that, their house has dropped in value dramatically. They came to us just simply looking for solutions.
So what we're going to do first is take a look at their situation if they stay put, just stay in their home. All right, okay. So we're going to start off with what they currently owe, which is $277,000.
Okay.
All right, and then we're going to look at what the value of the home is, and right now we think that's around $185,000.
Okay.
That would mean that they're underwater, meaning they owe more on their house than it's worth by $92,000.
Okay.
All right. Now, what do you think is going to happen to the value in the next 4 years?
We think that the values on properties are going to drop at least 20% from where they are. We think that the bottom of the housing market is not going to hit until 2014 or 2015, and that will be contingent upon unemployment rates, spending of the federal government, and a variety of other factors.
Okay, so their value that we're estimating in the next 4 years would be down to about $145,000.
$145,000, right. So I don't want you to despair, folks, at this $145,000 figure, because you really can look at that $145,000 figure as an opportunity in the future.
All right, so then we've got to talk about what it's going to cost them to stay in that house over the next 4 years.
Okay.
So their mortgage payments for the next 4 years would be $110,400.
So they're going to spend $110,000 in monthly payments over the next 4 years.
And they're probably going to have some maintenance.
True.
Yeah, so let's use about $7,200 for that.
And I think we calculated that at about $150 a month in maintenance on your property. So even if you have months that you don't have maintenance issues, you may have to put a roof on that in that time, or anything else that could be highly costly. $7,200. Okay.
All right, now they are going to get some tax benefits.
Absolutely.
From owning. You get that deduction of the mortgage interest currently.
Right.
So we've estimated that amount. We're going to skip down here to about $16,920.
$920. Okay. Now we calculated these tax advantages that Mark and Sarah are going to get at a 15% income tax rate. So so that's how we got that figure of $16,920.
So their total out of pocket, and that gives them a credit for this.
A credit for this, correct.
Over the next 4 years is $100,680.
So calculating in the maintenance on the property, because they're still responsible for the maintenance, and calculating in the tax benefits that they receive for being a homeowner, they're still going to spend $100,680 over the course of the next 4 years to own that property.
And they're still going to have the mortgage. And that mortgage in 4 years will be down to about $258,000.
So they'll owe $258,000.
So they, in 4 years, are still going to be underwater.
Right. And how much are they going to be underwater in 4 years?
$113,000.
Okay. So let's be real clear here that Mark and Sarah are going to spend $100,680 out of their pocket to live in that property for the next 4 years. And at the end of that 4 years, Lynn, they're still going to be upside down $113,000 in
Which
their house.
is worse than they are now.
Right.
So they've paid all that money,
right,
and they're in a worse position.
Right.
Wow. Okay, well, now why don't we look at an example of Mark and Sarah giving their house back to the bank, what those numbers would look like.
Okay.
So we'll start off, currently they're still underwater by that $92,000.
Today, yes.
Yes. And Mark and Sarah are going to have to live somewhere, so at some point they're going to have rent.
Mm-hmm.
So we've estimated $54,000 over the next 4 years for rent.
For rent. Oh, okay. So when we calculated this, folks, we decided that Mark and Sarah were going to be able to live in their house free for a period of time. We calculated 7 months living in their house for free, which is a very short period of time in comparison to what we're seeing around the country. We're trying to be very conservative in these estimates that we're putting up here.
Okay, and then they'll have to have renter's insurance during
to
that
protect
time.
their belongings,
so
right?
we've got $450
Okay.
there for that. All right, so their total out of pocket the next 4 years is $54,450.
Compared to,
Let me just connect these for
okay,
people.
compared to $100,680.
Wow.
Huge difference.
Wow. And what do they owe on their underwater mortgage? Zero.
That's a huge difference, folks. Just the out-of-pocket is $45,000 over the course of the next 48 months.
Yeah, it's about a $160,000 swing for this particular family.
Because they don't owe any money on that property,
Correct.
they're able to completely walk away.
That's a huge benefit.
$160,000, folks, over the course of a 48-month period, over the next 4 years, is the equivalent of a $20 an hour, 40-hour-a-week job.
Just for that.
What could Mark and Sarah do with all of that extra money? They certainly could prepare themselves for the next phase of their life, or they could go back and rebuy that house for what we think is going to be about half of what they originally paid for it. So what we'd like for you to do is comment down below to this video. Let us know what other questions you have. We're constantly creating new videos that we'll be putting out for you. We have a Facebook page. We'd like you to like us on our Facebook page. Again, let us know what it is that you want us to cover in future videos, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.